You're all set already with your doctorate.
Let me just frame
psychology.
the fact that I've got a doctorate in clinical psychology.
Yeah, guys, we're fully certified doctorates in clinical psychology. No, we're not. Before we get sued. All right.
Just one. Sorry.
Let me try
that again. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. It's been a minute since I've done this.
In it.
Hey.
Well,
right.
It's never been a minute since I've done this. I'm
I
glad.
mean, you were on the last episode.
True. As a guest.
Yeah.
I guess we're here permanently now, huh?
Guys, welcome back to the Making It in Medicine podcast. So this is the first time we're being back. We have video now, so that's a big upgrade. But this time it's me and it's Tway. So it's lovely to see you guys. But we have a lot of knowledge to disperse to you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
So we hope you're listening in. We hope you're going to be paying attention to the next 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to try and keep it short and sweet. But let's get right into it.
Right. Okay.
So today's episode is on MMI prep and NHS topics. So I think the first thing that comes to mind when I hear an MMI prep is always like, you realize you just have to practice. Like,
that is the only way.
that is the most important thing when it comes to MMI, like prep.
Like, cut through the noise.
Yeah.
The only thing that will get you through it is practice.
Yeah.
You can do all the theory revision you want.
Yeah.
Unless you do some practice,
One way
it
or
means
another,
nothing.
I think one of the best ways to practice is probably like sitting down with other people who are going through the same process. So other people who are applying to similar med schools, whether it's, UCAT or BMAT med schools, sit down with those people and practice in the styles of interview that those unis do. Today, we're specifically going to be talking about MMI prep. We may do a episode where we focus on traditional. We're still contemplating that.
Yeah.
But based on what you guys want, we'll kind of tailor our output. Okay.
I feel like with MMI prep, the reason people find that a bit more difficult than panels because you're sat in front of somebody and that person sat there, sometimes with a clipboard, sometimes with a laptop, just looking at you like, all right, go talk to me for 5 minutes. Go on.
It's like
stop.
a blitz.
And then if you stop with 2 minutes left to spare, right, 2 minutes. Right, we'll sit in silence for 2 minutes. Let's go. You see, now imagine that for 2 minutes. You're not going to be able to talk. He's still going. In one of my MMI stations, I had the doctor ask me a question about ethics, and it was crazy. It was a crazy question. I didn't know the answer, and then he went like this. Are you sure?
That's a lot of pressure.
In it.
I can't lie.
And I was like,
pressure.
yeah, I am sure. And then I looked at my marks afterwards, and it was I got the full marks for it.
Perfect.
But it just goes to show that they'll throw some stuff like that at you. Don't be fooled.
Don't be too nervous as well. If you've done your research and you know your answer back to front, don't be, tested and don't fold to them, applying that pressure. Be steadfast in your answer. Be confident. I think that's a lot of what interview prep is. Like, you have to be confident. You have to be self-confident. You have to be ready for whatever comes.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is the most underrated piece of advice. People completely ignore it every single time you tell somebody to be confident. Because they're thinking of the 4 pillars of medical ethics, they're thinking of data interpretation, and all these other specific things that you need to know about. But at the end of the day, if you don't know the answer to something, but you're confident, you walked in and you shook the examiner's hand and sat down confidently, not fidgeting, and you say, sorry, I don't know the answer to this, but if I was to find out the answer, which I would go and look, I'd go to the GMC guidance and look there. Yeah. And then they're like, okay, fair enough. Some examiners will give you the mark for that because they're like, he knows where to find it.
Exactly.
In real life, you're not going to not have Google all the time.
Yeah.
So, I scored a few marks by doing that in my interview. I didn't know everything.
Yeah. And, sometimes as well, there is this one thing, though. There is a slight caveat to that because sometimes they will ask you a completely impossible question, some type of question that even it will take you years of med school to even know the answer to that question. And sometimes you have to be okay with being like, I don't know. Yeah. But if I was to... Do you know what I mean?
That is the right answer in that station. Yeah. They're looking to see if you're going to chat.
Exactly. If you turn around and give them some nonsense answer, they will see right through you and be like, 0.
Yeah.
So just try and avoid that if you can. Okay. So we have a few talking points in terms of the most important things that we think that you guys should kind of think about and prepare for. And I think one of the most important ones is the ethical stations.
Yes. Yeah.
So ethical stations, talking about the 4 principles. I'm sure you guys have been, had that drilled into your head 1,000,001 times. But really and truly, it's for good reason. Okay, so take that, that knowledge. Talk about beneficence, non-maleficence. Talk about autonomy and Justice, guys, we already know this. But try to apply those to every ethical situation that you're going to be in. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want a quick synopsis of these ethics, I looked on YouTube, right, and I found videos that were 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long. What's the point? Why are you spending 5 minutes talking about the 4 pillars of medical ethics? I explained all of it in a minute on MedCamps. 1 minute. So what are people talking about for this whole time? I don't get it. It's easier than people think it is. It really is easier than people think it is. You just need somebody to collate the information that's already out there for free and give it to you. So
I think that raises another important point. So we live in an age where like we have a lot more information at our fingertips than ever before. And so like you look on Instagram and YouTube and all these things, and you could see free content for days. Okay, take the opportunity. Follow. One thing I think my mum always said to me is, if I was to ever spend the amount of time that I took watching YouTube videos and actually use that to study, I'd be a genius. Guess what I did? I just started watching, like school YouTube videos on the subjects that I needed to do. And guess what happened? I got A stars. Okay. So this is the same kind of principle. If you start to implement it into your daily life, so follow those, medical pages like MedCamps or anything like that, or literally any page that you want. That way you kind of start to see these things repeatedly, and it kind of almost subconsciously gets put into your head, and it's a lot less invasive of a process, but it's still working for you.
Yeah, because the screen time is working for you at that point. Yeah. You're spending your time on TikTok or Instagram, whatever it is. We're not shaming that. It's just make that time useful. Yeah. At least make some of that time useful. Yeah. I mean, that goes on to another type of station you can encounter, the data interpretation one. That can catch a lot of people off guard. Even if you did maths, if you're not confident and you go in there and they put a graph in front of you and go, all right, your 5 minutes starts now, go, and stare at you. You're like, okay. And you forget that the axis is in per 1,000 deaths. Yeah. And you say something like 5 million. Yeah. In reality, that's 500,000. Yeah. Well, that's 50,000. That's not
a major incorrect.
Exactly.
Answer.
So read the axes. There's going to be a lot released. You can find it a lot out there. Yeah. Main thing is keep calm. Read the axes. Read the question they give you. Then have a look at the data. Don't look at the trend straight away.
Always read the question, understand what they're asking you, and address it. Okay. Yeah. So another important thing I think we need to speak on is talking about your personal statement. So please do revise and reread your personal statement before you come in. I think this applies for both MMIs and traditional examinations, interviews. But the reason they do this is because they really want you to be convincing in your personal statement, okay? So understand, they'll specifically be asking you more about your work experience, why you did it, what you learned from it. You need to be able to answer these questions to a good standard in order to really convince them that this is the right med student to pick.
Yeah, no, there's nothing, take this from me. I didn't do it, but I've heard of stories. Yeah, there's nothing more embarrassing than going into the MMI station that talks about your personal statement and they're like, oh, so where did you do your work experience? And then you're like, bro, it's written down. Just tell me, like. And if you lied, or if there's some specific thing, obviously you remember where you did your work experience, but if there's some specific thing you wrote in there, like a sentence about what you learned from that work experience, and you can't remember that, and they test you on it, you failed the station.
You gotta hold that.
Yeah,
like that's on you.
So, read your personal statement, remember it, and then be prepared to go into a station and sell your personal statement to them again. Yeah. It's really just a sales station, isn't it? Everything's a sales.
The whole thing is, to be honest.
Yeah, apart from obviously data interpretation, ethics.
But at the same time, you also have to sell yourself in being able to handle that pressure. Yeah. Being able to remain calm under pressure is kind of the part that I'm talking about when you're selling yourself. If you're able to do that, that's kind of the ideal person that they're looking for. You don't want to panic and just freeze, okay? Instead of freezing, actually, this is a very important tip that I learned. Instead of freezing and just completely decide to take a moment, look composed, literally compose yourself and say, I'm going to take a moment to think about this.
To gather my
thoughts. Right? And then reply with, even if you don't know, like we said earlier, if I don't know, I would do this, this, and this. But if you do know, then you'd put all the knowledge that you've collated together, and then you'd give them a concise and correct answer. Okay?
Yeah,
that way, you're seen to be stable.
Exactly. And just to add on to that as well, a lot of people aren't used to not using filler words.
Yeah.
They'll use filler words like and then don't do that.
Listen, that was also me. Also when I started this podcast. But like he said, now that he said it, I can't undo it.
I've spoken into existence.
I can't
you see, that's how I have a doctorate in clinical psychology.
But honestly, he's right. Try and be comfortable with silence. Be comfortable with not saying a word until you're fully ready to say it and mean every word that you do say. Okay?
Yeah. And don't get thrown off, even if they pressure you. If you walk into a room, this happened to me, I walked into the room, tried to shake hands with the examiner, and they just aired me. They said, sit down. I was like, okay.
You just got to go with it.
Sat down.
You've got to roll with the punches.
There'll be people like that. And they're like that on purpose to see if you'll stumble or fall. I mean, you could say it's unfair, but they're like that with everyone. So
just got to get through.
Don't take it personal. Yeah.
So on the point of talking about your personal statement, one of the most important questions that you guys have to prepare yourselves for is why medicine?
Oh, yeah, that one.
If your answer is not concrete, bulletproof, tank-proof, nuke-proof, you're done.
Yeah, so tell them you want the money. So they know you're in it to win.
Okay. Disclaimer, please do not tell them you want the money. Okay? On a serious note, please do not be applying for medicine if you want the money. I can guarantee you there are better jobs out there that will earn you a lot more money for a lot... let me not say that. A lot more money. We'll stop there. Yeah. But if you want to do medicine, please have your answer be ready and come from the heart. If it's not genuine, a lot of people can really tell. And if it's not coming from the heart, then I wish you good luck. Or you're probably a Oscar-nominated actor.
I know, right? If somebody said that like while scrolling, and then it was like, yeah, you know what, and they went and said that to their you deserve to fail.
Yeah,
right.
It's a long day.
Also, on top of that, they say, why medicine? Did you say why not nursing?
No, I didn't.
So they add the clause of why didn't you pick nursing? Because you know what that takes away? That takes away your ability to say, I want to help people. So now you've got to pick the difference between medicine and nursing. One of the differences I picked, and I think a lot of people did as well, is I enjoy having the burden of responsibility. I enjoy being the decision maker and holding that responsibility.
Yep.
But then also feeling the satisfaction of when I help somebody heal or their child gets better because of the actions I took and the decisions I made.
That's a really good answer.
So, yeah.
I feel like I'm the interviewer now. Like, that's a really good answer. I think what I said was, I think I expressed my interest in surgery and also kind of developing on my leadership skills. So I said I was really interested in leadership and leading a team towards a common goal.
That's a good one.
And that common goal being, improving this patient's health, as well as the fact that I want to, physically use my hands. There's something about my mind to hand connection and mind to muscle connection about being able to improve that patient's health with my physical hands and the knowledge up in my head, and something about that just appealed to me, and so I guess that worked. But everyone is going to have their own reason. Try not to copy ours because they probably heard those 1,000 times. But just make your reason genuine. Okay, that's the most important thing.
I think another nice twist you can add as well is keep in mind you're applying to a medical school. You're not applying to a hospital just yet. So when you're applying to the medical school and they're asking you about your personal statement, if you've written about your subjects in your personal statement, which I hope you've done, talk about your subjects a bit. Talk about something in medicine. So, I don't know, the foot. Talk about the foot. Talk about anything. But take what you've done in A-level biology or chemistry or psychology and extend it a bit further into medicine. Just to show them that you've got enthusiasm for the degree as well. Because they're investing in you. I don't know if you guys know, but the amount of money the uni make from a medical student doesn't match up how much they actually put in you to send you to placement, to give you laptops. This is a uni laptop. Those things, that costs more than what you pay the uni every year. So they're investing in you and they don't want to lose their investment. So make sure that you can tell them you can get through the medical degree as well as being a doctor.
You got to reserve that interest.
Yeah.
You got to show them you have that interest.
Don't just sell the fact that you want to be a doctor, sell the fact that you also want to be a medical student.
So, one of the most underrated tips, we were talking about this before, is a social warm-up.
Oh my gosh.
So you see those awkward awkward, like waiting rooms where you have all the med students together.
Yeah.
This was way back before COVID. I don't know. Do they still have those?
I think they have online ones now, so it's even
Online
worse.
ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you got to socially warm up at home.
In the mirror. One way or another, take the opportunity to socially warm up before your exam. Speak to someone and just get like that little bit of like social looseness and ability to talk fluidly in a relaxed manner, and really embody that medical student persona when you're in that mode, okay? And really just set the scene for yourself so that when you walk in, you're not like, oh, I have to flip the switch. You're already there.
Yeah.
You're already there. You're just gliding through it. You know what I mean? And it's so much better when you're already in that mindset compared to as when you're, oh, I have to flip the switch. I have to think in this different way. Yeah. It's much easier.
Exactly. This is one of the tips I mentioned on the MedCamps TikTok account as well. And it's so underrated, but it will save you from the biggest failures in your MMI stations. Because if you're socially warmed up, the examiner knows you're nice and warmed up.
Yeah.
Treats you more like a human being rather than a stumbling idiot.
Yeah.
And is nice to you for that.
Eye contact.
Yeah, make eye contact. Shake their hand, smile, sit down, be happy to be there.
Yeah, obviously don't like stare into their soul and like be a creep, but like make eye contact, be social. You guys know what to do. You're all socially intelligent somewhat. So
I mean, if you're in the waiting room, if there is a waiting room and you're in person, talk to people around you. They're probably nervous and they probably need the social world just as much as you do.
Exactly.
Unless you're one of those types where it's like competition.
Dude.
In that case, scare them. Instill fear in your enemies and then walk into the interview room.
Just war. I love that. All right, so we've kind of talked generally around and about the different topics and things you might experience when you're doing your MMI. But again, like the first point we said, the most important thing you guys can do is practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the easier it gets, because you already know, oh, it's going to be this answer, it's going to be that answer, and you're thinking less about the answer and more about how you're communicating.
Yeah.
And that's another thing we wanted to talk about communication station, but if you practice so much so that your answers are fluid, then you can focus a lot more on your communication and just make it a much more pleasant experience for both yourself and the examiner. Okay. Yeah. And that hopefully gives you a few more ticks in the boxes. Okay.
Yeah. Definitely. Don't just try and recite things.
Yeah. Reciting things makes you come across like a robot.
Yeah.
Like, and no one wants a cold steel like robot. It's really...
Trust me, no matter how much of a nerd you are, you'll never be able to learn everything in medicine.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah, we're still trying. No, it's not possible.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. This is third year now, isn't it? Yeah. So, now we move on to NHS Hot Topics. There's a lot of these.
There's a lot
of these. There's like... I think you can kind of split them into two major categories. There's like the bog standard interview, like you better know this.
Yeah.
Like everyone who's doing an interview knows this. And that's stuff like the Bristol Heart scandal, the doctor's contracts, doctor's pay, stuff like that. You need to know that stuff. I think we'll even be posting stuff about those,
we
the
definitely
standard
will.
ones.
Yeah.
What we want to talk about is kind of the stuff that will set you apart. Okay, the stuff that is kind of more current, more relevant, and I think that's what this station is assessing.
Yeah.
It's more assessing: are you engaged with the literature? Are you engaged with the news and what's going on in the medical field? And so that's why we want to talk about slightly more relevant things. So number one, first up, we've got
Strep A. So
Strep A.
We don't like Strep A around here. Strep A is not a fan. Hold on, I'll find a news article and we'll put it on the screen for everyone to see.
I'm getting old.
You are getting old.
Did you hear that? The crepitus in my elbows. Jeez.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, last time I checked it was 9. The death toll of children was 9.
Really?
Now, 3 hours ago, Sky and The Guardian as well have said that the death toll has risen to 15.
15. What's the date today?
It is the 8th of December.
It's the 8th of December. So, guys, make a note of that. On the 8th of December, it was 15. By the time you do your interview, it may have changed. Okay. Yeah. So keep account of that. But it's these kind of seasonal. Part of these infections, flu, strep A, even COVID has a somewhat seasonal element towards it. During the summer, it kind of dips, and during the winter, it kind of, increases, especially the fact that we've been social distancing over the past few years, and going into lockdown, in and out of lockdown. A lot of people have been wearing masks, but now that all of that is gone, I feel like it's given the chance for things like strep A to, transmit. No one has immunity to them, especially these kids who were born during the COVID lockdown.
I guess the most important thing to know with these kind of things is think about what's happened recently. So strep A. Now imagine what would the impact be on the healthcare providers. So I'm on placement at the moment on an obstetrics and gynecology placement in Blackpool. And one of the ward sisters was talking about how they recently just had 6 children with strep A in the ward. And my GP tutor told me that a whole nursery started referring children who've been in contact with the child who's had strep A to the GP. So then they got flooded in with parents, children, and they just can't deal with all those people.
I think the Royal College of GPs has actually changed the protocol with that. So instead of having the entire school or the entire class referred, what it is if one child has been diagnosed with strep A or has been tested positive for strep A, they've decided to give the whole class antibiotics that would.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Strep A,
yeah,
I think because I heard that in the GP practice actually yesterday. But that's kind of crazy. There's a lot of implications with that because antibiotics are not cheap
and resistant
as well, because we get we get taught a lot about making sure that we don't overprescribe antibiotics, and so that brings up the whole argument of antibiotic resistance. Is this a policy that's viable? Is it a policy that we should continue or even start? And I think those are the arguments where you can start to look towards your ethical scenarios, look at your consequentialism, look at your utilitarianism. These words, honestly, there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
but you'll get used to it.
You need to learn all those as well.
Yeah,
that's another thing that's covered in many different places. Med camps will cover all that as well. Hedonism, all those schools of moral thought that you need to know in order to answer some ethical questions or moral questions, especially the situational judgment ones. But with just like you were saying, the antibiotics, it kind of shows in what kind of condition the NHS is in right now.
Yeah.
They would rather just dispense out the antibiotics and not have to deal with the consultations than to have to deal with the consultations and see if the antibiotics are required. So they're taking that risk. Yeah. I reckon purely because they just can't handle the amount of patients.
I mean, it is because how else would they be able to? The staffing levels are insanely low.
Very low.
If one person on a ward calls in sick, that is catastrophic for that ward now.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely. So it means that either 1 or 2 nurses are going to have to cover that additional person's shift, or 1 or 2 doctors are going to have to cover that additional person's, workload or jobs list, right? And the issue is so bad that essentially, the NHS is on the brink of collapse.
We've just been sent an email as medical students that the RCN are going on strike, so the Royal College of Nursing. They're going on strike, and we might have to be called in. But they said that's against GMC rules. Yeah. So, but they were sending that email. So what? They're going to bend GMC rules just because the NHS is what? I wouldn't say on its final legs, but it is struggling. I see it in person at placement. I see it with my GP tutor. I see it with everybody. And then that email came through, and it's dispense antibiotics instead of seeing somebody to see if they need it.
Because you realise it's really gotten to that point. It is quite bad, the kind of state of the NHS. But, our job's to try and work out solutions. We are the next generation. We are the future, as they like to say. So as bleak as it is, we need to keep trying to look for solutions and do our best to accommodate. If you guys have any solutions, please do email us, DM us.
Totally not going to steal the credit, but do so.
But is there any other hot topics that you think are relevant?
Hot topics? I mean, I'd say just get clued up on also the financial side of everything.
Yeah.
So get clued up on the strikes. Like you said, doctor pay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say those are the main things.
I think, like you said, about doctor pay, that's kind of gone under the radar now, hasn't it? Not a lot of people are striking anymore.
Doctors?
Yeah.
Oh, we can't strike, can we? Well,
is it ethical?
Yeah.
Again, another argument. But it's a difficult argument to have. But one thing I definitely will say is just don't do medicine for the money. It's really not what you need. It's not. Only please do this degree if you really care about the patients, the difference you're making. Just anything but the money, realistically.
Yeah.
Okay?
Like we
because
said,
you will suffer.
There's a future episode coming for money, for A-level students struggling where to go, and all you want is money. There's an episode for you coming soon. And we'll lay out the step 1 all the way up the staircase to heaven, and we'll show you how to get there every step of the way. All you do is follow the steps, and you'll get there. Sounds too good to be true, but it's not, trust me. Yeah, that's about it.
All right, so
that's about it.
just to wrap up before we close out, so we may be having a few notable guests in the future episodes.
Yes.
So we're going to be posting on our Instagram page. Going to make a TikTok page. Yes, I am going to use TikTok for all of those of you who know me as not
I
the
had to
person who
recently
uses
make a
TikTok.
switch for med camps as well, but
but we're going to be posting on those, so keep your eye out on those. On Instagram is @MakeItInMed. TikTok, I've yet to make it, but I will post it. Don't worry, it will be on the Instagram. And you'll find everything you need to know probably on the Instagram page. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Am I missing anything?
No, and just going to plug MedCamps as well. So MedCamps is on Instagram and TikTok, med_camps, and we've got a website, medcamps.co.uk, and there you will find all the free content that you need, as well as some other things that you can get. And then on top of that, the TikTok will have all those 1-minute quick bursts of information, and these hot topics and everything will be on there, just kind of like your newsletter for how to get into medicine. And definitely the podcast page, to stay up to track on everything to do with medicine. Even if you're a medical student now, we'll have, like you said, some really interesting guests coming on. That will also maybe help you decide where to go with your career.
Exactly. This podcast really isn't just for people trying to get into medicine. We're also doing a lot more focus this year on looking at careers, so specific surgical, medical careers.
Even private sector ones,
Exactly. Well, I'm interested in robotics, so we're going to explore all of those. We're going to explore topics of money, World is our oyster at this point.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
We've got a lot for you guys this year, so please do stick around, listen out, and we will see you on our next episode. All right? Cheers for coming in.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.